Welcome to Believe in the Word with Pastor Dan Shunk. This program is an outpouring of the ministry going on at Calvary Chapel Chambersburg in Chambersburg, Pennsylvania. Here's what's coming up in today's message.
Joining with somebody in evil, you can be sure that that evil is going to come right back on you. Have you ever joined somebody in gossip only to realize, like maybe right then, maybe later, you just realize, I just gossiped with them. I wonder if they're gossiping about me behind my back, right? See, when you join with somebody in evil, you can be assured that they're doing that evil right back to you.
In Judges chapter 9, the story takes a dramatic turn with Abimelech's ruthless quest for kingship and the fallout that follows. This chapter challenges us to consider the dangers of pride and the importance of God's guidance in choosing leaders. Let's dig into the Word and learn from these powerful warnings. Let's join Pastor Dan in Judges chapter 9 as he concludes his message, You can't appease evil, you must fight.
Of Israel, again, the national correct choice. Again, it's a representation of the people of Israel going to Gideon, who was the nationally correct choice, and asking him to reign. And he said, no, the Lord will reign. And one more, in verse 12, then the trees, or that is the men of Shechem, they went to the vine and said, come thou and reign over us. And the fig tree said unto them, should I leave my wine, which cheereth God and man, and go to be promoted over the trees? So again, the vine is as if the people of Israel went to Gideon, who was the spiritually correct one, and asked him to reign, and he said, no. But notice in all three of those examples, the olive, the fig, and the vine, all of them know their place. And the story is reminding them Gideon knew his place. He wasn't chosen to be a king. He was chosen to be a judge and then go back to what he was doing. Gideon knew his place. And so the story that Jotham is telling is the proper person that could have been approved said, no, I know my role. And so because the trees, or the men of Shechem, couldn't find a good one to rule, verse 14 happens. Then all of the trees said to the bramble bush, come thou and reign over us, almost as if that you're all we got. And in verse 15, the bramble said unto the trees, and who's the bramble in this story? This is Abimelech, right? So the men of Shechem went to Abimelech and said, rule over us, as Jotham's telling the story. So the bramble said to the trees in verse 15, if in truth you will make me king over you, then come and put your trust in my shadow. You're either trusting in Abimelech or you're trusting in God. And if not, let fire come out of the bramble and devour the cedars of Lebanon. And now the parable's over in verse 16. Now therefore, Jotham says, if you have done truly and sincerely in that you have made Abimelech king, and if you have dealt well with Gideon and his house, and have done unto him according to the deserving of his hands, for my father fought for you and avenged his life far and delivered you out of the hand of Midian. And if you are risen up against my father's house this day, and have slain his sons, 70 people upon one stone, that means publicly, and have made Abimelech, the son of his maidservant, king over the men of Shechem, because he is your brother. If you have dealt truly and sincerely with Gideon and his house this day, then rejoice in Abimelech, and let him also rejoice in you. But if not, then let fire come out from where? As Jotham's telling this story, he's saying to them, look, if you did the right thing in choosing this bramble, Abimelech, to be king, if you did the right thing, then good on you. But he says, if not, in verse 20, if not, then let fire come out from where? Not even from God. Let fire come out from Abimelech and devour the men of Shechem and the house of Milo. And let fire come down from the men of Shechem and from the house of Milo and devour Abimelech. One more verse, verse 21. And then Jotham ran away and fled and went to Beer and dwelt there for fear of Abimelech, his brother. So he did what God called him to do. Jotham went and told this parable, told this story. But the end of his story is, look, if you're obeying God and putting up Abimelech, great. But if you didn't do right, then there will be a fire from Abimelech that will destroy the city of Shechem, and the city of Shechem will destroy Abimelech. Do you see that? That's so interesting. They're saying the parable, the spiritual prophecy here is that Shechem, to use a modern term, you got yourself in bed with a bad guy. Everything you did in this association between you and him is evil. You're doing evil things, you're hiring this evil man, and you're doing evil things together. And the parable, the prophecy says, all of that is going to fire against each other. It's just going to come back against each other. When you have the evil means here of these guys and the evil means of this, it's going to end up shooting each other. That's the point. Prophecy is that the bad choice of each one of these evil people, the men of Shechem and Abimelech, will come back and destroy each other. You get the point? The prophecy isn't even that God will have to judge you. No, the prophecy is the evil that you've been living by is going to come back and bite you. You don't even need God to judge you. The only evil that you're doing will do it. So verse 22, when Abimelech had reigned for 3 years over Israel, then God sent an evil spirit between Abimelech and the men of Shechem. And the men of Shechem dwelt treacherously with Abimelech. Here it is. Here it is. The conflict between the evil men of Shechem and the evil Abimelech has already risen up. It's only been 3 years. Sociologists today will tell you that 2.5 years into any relationship is the time when everybody is the realist. Think about that. 2.5 years into your marriage, that's when your walls are down and you're actually acting like yourself. You know, you're making all those burps and all the other, everything, and you're being open now. That's how it works. 2.5 years into a job, now you're being open with all the people you work with. 2.5 years into, school life, if it stays constant, now you're open and you're being honest. You're telling people what you really think. So here it is, 3 years into this relationship between Shechem and Abimelech, and all of a sudden they're like, man, I'm not looking on the grass that's greener anymore. Now I'm looking on the things I hate about him. And all of them have been living by evil. And so, here in verse 24, so they were stirred up against each other. In verse 24, that the cruelty done to the 70 sons of Jerubbaal might come back. So the Lord sent an evil spirit between them so that the cruelty that Abimelech had against the 70 sons might come, and their blood be laid upon Abimelech, their brother, which slew them, and upon the men of Shechem, which aided him in the killing of the brethren. And in verse 25, the men of Shechem set liers in wait, that means people hiding, for him in the top of the mountains, and they robbed all that came along that way by them, and it was told to Abimelech. And so Gaal, in verse 26, we got a new person named Gaal. He was the son of Ebed, and he came with his brothers and went to Shechem. And the men of Shechem put their confidence in him. So I'm going to say it this way. Gaal comes along into the town of Shechem, and they look at him as the next shiny thing. The next cool thing. Wow, he looks big and strong. Why don't we trust him? And that's how men work. That's how fickle man works. Verse 27, and they went out into the fields, and they gathered their vineyards and trod their grapes, and they made merry, and they went into the house of their God, and did eat and drink, and they cursed Abimelech. Gaal comes into town, and all of a sudden everybody's talking bad about Abimelech. It's been 3 years of Abimelech's rule, and all these evil men, guess what? They also hate Abimelech. Imagine that. Because it's been in their heart the whole time. And Gaal, in verse 28, the son of Ebed, said, who is Abimelech? And who is Shechem that we should serve him? Is not he the son of Gideon? And Zebul, his officer, served the men of Hamor, the father of Shechem. For why should we serve him? So now Gaal sees that the men of Shechem what are they doing? They're tickling his ears now. Oh, Gaal, I think you're awesome. Maybe you should rule, Gaal. And so he's like, yeah, who is this Abimelech anyway? Is basically what they're saying. Who is Abimelech basically means, why should we respect Abimelech? And so they're stirring up Gaal now to launch a rebellion against Abimelech. So as Shechem agreed for Abimelech to rule those 3 years ago, Shechem, the evil Shechemites, and Abimelech, they agree to do all this evil together, right? And I find that so fascinating because whatever you sow, you will reap, right? Whatever you sow, you will reap. Whether it's evil or whether it's good, you will reap it. Think about it this way. The evil that you agree to do with person X will ultimately be used against person X. Here you have the Shechemites agree to do evil with Abimelech together, but then eventually they turn their evil against each other. The next opportunity for the Shechemites was Gaul that came to town, and now they're going to have him help them against Abimelech. So sad. So sad. Whatever you sow, you will reap. And both Abimelech's evil and the men of Shechem's evil is coming back to bite them. This is the way Paul said it in Galatians chapter 6, right? Don't be deceived. God's not mocked. For whatever a man sows, that shall he also reap. For he, in other words, whatever he is, whatever his weapons are, whatever his lifestyle is, whatever he's doing with his life, it will come back on him in the end. If he's sowing to the flesh, then to the flesh he will reap corruption. But he that soweth to the Spirit shall of the Spirit reap life everlasting. So it is no surprise when an evil union breaks up and turns against each other. And that's exactly what just happened. So now in verse 29, we see big mouth Gaul step up and challenge Abimelech. In verse 29, Gaul says, "Would to God this people were under my hand, then would I remove Abimelech." And he said to Abimelech, now Gaul is going to speak to Abimelech, "Increase your army and come out." And when Zebul, the ruler of the city, heard the words of Gaul, the son of Ebed, his anger was kindled, and he sent messengers to Abimelech privately, saying, "Behold, Gaul, the son of Ebed, and his brothers, they have come to Shechem, and behold, they fortify the city against you. Now therefore, come up by night, you and the people that are with you, and lie in wait in the field. And it shall be that in the morning, as soon as the sun is up, that you shall rise early and set upon the city. And behold, when he and the people that is with him are come out against you, then mayest thou do to them as you shall find occasion." And so the ruler of the city is talking to Abimelech, saying, "Hey, come here and fight against Gaul," right? Now, verse 24, Abimelech rose up, and all the people that were with him by night, and they did. They came and lied wait against Shechem in 4 different parts. And Gaul, the son of Ebed, went out, and he stood in the entering into the gate of the city, and Abimelech rose up, and the people that were with him from their hiding place. And in verse 36, when Gaul saw the people, he said to Zebul, "Behold, there came people down from the top of the mountain." And Zebul said to him, "You see the shadow of the mountain." So Zebul, who's running the city, said to Gaul, "Oh, there's nothing there." But it was really Abimelech and his army, right? And in verse 37, Gaul spoke again and said, "See, there come people down by the middle of the land, and another company is coming along the plain." And in verse 38, then said Zebul unto him, "Where is now your mouth, wherewith you said, Who is Abimelech, that we should serve him? Is not this people that you have despised? Go out, I pray you, and fight with them." So now Zebul is saying, "Gaul, you asked for Abimelech. There he is out in the field. Why don't you go fight him?" And so big mouth Gaul now has to back up his words. And what's interesting here is the men of Shechem, these evil men, they stirred him up to think that he could fight this and win this and beat Abimelech. And now he's going to have to put his money where his mouth is. All this conflict because of these men wanting their own will. And let's just go the whole way down now for another 10 verses or so. Starting in verse 39, Gaul went out from before the men of Shechem, and he fought Abimelech. And Abimelech chased him, and he fled before him, and many were overthrown and wounded, even unto the entering into the gate. And Abimelech dwelt at Arumah, and Zebul thrust out Gaul and his brethren, that they should not dwell in Shechem. And it came to pass on the next day that the people went out into the field, and they told Abimelech. And he took the people, and he divided them into 3 companies, and hid in the field, and looked, and behold, the people were come forth out of the city, and he rose up against them and smote them. So now, get it, that Abimelech has taken out Gaul. He's no longer a threat and his army. But now Abimelech says, "I know that the people of Shechem put him up to this." So now Abimelech is coming against the people of Shechem. You know, his original friends. that helped him gain the kingship 3 years ago. And now he realizes they betrayed him and he's coming against them. All these evil men, and now their wills are turning against each other. Verse 44, Abimelech and the company that was with him rushed forward and stood in the entering into the gate of the city, and the 2 other companies ran up all the people that were in the fields, and they slew them. And Abimelech fought against the city all that day, and he took the city of Shechem and slew the people that were inside, and he beat down the city, and he sowed it with salt. Do you know what that's all about? They would, after they defeated a city, they would often, if they had just such disgrace for the people of that city, they would literally spread salt all over the place. You know what that would do? It would prevent crops from being able to grow back. As if saying, we don't want anybody to ever live here again. That's the idea of sowing it with salt. And so that's how mad Abimelech is that his friends, the Shechemites, turned against him. And in verse 46, when all the men of the tower of Shechem heard that, they entered into the hold of the house of the god Berith. So again, it just reminds us that these Shechemites didn't serve the Lord. They served these false gods, evil through and through. And in verse 47, after they went into the tower, it was told Abimelech that all the men of the tower of Shechem were gathered inside. And Abimelech got him up to Mount Zalmon, he and all the people that were with him. And Abimelech took an axe in his hand, and he cut down a bow from the trees, and he took it and laid it on his shoulder. And he said to all the people that were with him, what you've seen me do, make haste and you go do it. In other words, everybody should go cut down some wood and bring it. In verse 49, all the people likewise cut down every man his bow and followed Abimelech and put them to the hold and set the hold on fire upon them, so that all the men of the tower of Shechem died. It was about 1,000 men and women. So as Abimelech chased the rest of the people of Shechem out of the city into this tower, he then burnt it and killed them all that were inside this tower. So Abimelech takes out all the people of Shechem for supporting Gaul. Joining with somebody in evil, you can be sure that that evil is going to come right back on you. Have you ever joined somebody in gossip only to realize, like maybe right then, maybe later, you just realize, I just gossiped with them. I wonder if they're gossiping about me behind my back. Right? See, when you join with somebody in evil, you could be assured that they're doing that evil right back to you. Same thing. When you join with somebody in cutting, rude attitudes, you can be sure it will come back to you the same way, right? Now let's finish this off here. And now that we see, Abimelech taking out the men of Shechem, pick it up in verse 50. Then went Abimelech to Thebes and encamped against Thebes and took it. That's another city. But there was a strong tower in the city, and thither fell all the men and women and all they of the city, and they shut it to them and gat them up into the top of the tower. So again, people ran to the tower as their last resort. And in verse 52, Abimelech came to the tower and fought against it, and he went hard unto the door of the tower to burn it with fire. And a certain woman cast a piece of a millstone upon Abimelech's head and all to break his skull. So this Thebes is another city that supported the Shechemites. So I want you to get that picture, that this is still Abimelech fighting against the people that rejected him and turned against him and started supporting Gaul. And so here he is, he goes to the next minor town that supported Shechem. He has a woman throw this stone out the window on his head, and it's going to kill him. It's going to kill him. If he just lay there, he's going to die just from the head wound. And remember, these millstones, most of them would have weighed between 400 and 500 pounds. That's the type of thing that we're talking about. So that's a whole millstone. Now, did she throw a whole millstone out the window? We don't know. I mean, certainly even just 50 pounds would be plenty to take somebody out that falls like that. So this woman is responsible for putting him right near death. And look what he does in verse 54. Then he called, this is Abimelech, he called hastily unto a young man, his armor bearer, and he said to him, draw your sword and slay me, so that the men will not say of me that a woman slew him. And his young man thrust him through, and he died. And when the men of Israel saw that Abimelech was dead, they departed every man to his own place. Thus God rendered the wickedness of Abimelech, which he did unto his father in the slaying of the 70 brothers. And all the evil of the men of Shechem did God render upon their heads. And upon them came the curse of Jotham, the son of Gideon. Think about Abimelech's end. What pride, what evil to even want to control your own death. Right? How evil is that? So both the city of Shechem gets wiped out by some of the evil that they associated with Abimelech. And now even Abimelech gets taken out because of his association with the evil people in Shechem and their supporting towns. And so all of Jotham's words come to pass. All of these evil methods and these evil associations, and it ends up firing against each other. And you know, it works the opposite way in God's will too for the believers. That when you associate with believers of peace and of joy and of patience and of long-sufferingness and of love, and you associate with them, that ends up coming back at us. So think about the weapons of our warfare. Think about the methods of living this Christian life on our way to the goal of praising God. The means by which we get there and the weapons we choose will come back on us. Do you remember what we read there earlier on? Right? In Galatians? It's not just the evil means that come back. It's the good ones too. If you sow to the flesh, you will reap corruption. But if you sow to the Spirit, you will of the Spirit reap good things, and certainly in the end, everlasting life. So the methods by which we're pursuing this Christian life matter. They matter. Think of all of these lessons from the story of Gideon, the story of his son Abimelech. It's warfare. And the Lord wants to use Israel in the Old Testament as a very physical example to us of what we need to think about in the spiritual realm. These principles still stand. They still stand. Whether we use them in a physical warfare application or if we use them in a spiritual warfare application. So as important as physical warfare is, how much more important is our spiritual conflict that we're in? So here's a couple things to think about. Choose a side. Have you done that yet? Have you already done that? Or do you just play it safe? Like, well, I'll try this church thing because it's comfortable for now, you know? Or have you chosen the Lord because it's a conviction that you believe in faith? The safe side is not necessarily safe, but the right side is always right. The Lord's side is always right. So live a life of conviction. Know what the Lord wants, and then whether it's easy or hard, live that, and you will be living right, on the right side. But don't just choose a side. Choose your end goal. Choose where you're going. What is the purpose of choosing the Lord's side? It should be to praise and honor God. And sometimes we can fool ourselves into thinking, well, I'm serving the Lord. And then the moment the Lord blesses us with something good, we just consume it upon ourselves. And it challenges the heart to say, were we living for us or were we living for God? Live for God so that at the end of the journey, when you arrive, when you get the blessing, when you get the promotion, when you get the thing, you don't consume it upon yourself and take the kingship or the queenship to yourself. But you say, no, the Lord needs to reign. The Lord needs to reign. Decide to glorify God before you get the riches, before you get the influence, so that you're ready to give him the praise. And then finally, the last thing is choose your weaponry. Don't advance by evil means. If you're associating with evil, that will only come back against you later. But the good news is when you associate with godly means and godly people, that will also come back. So choose the armor of the Lord and live in peace with the Lord, right? And with his fellow Christians and with his fellow believers all around you. Lessons from warfare. All the guys are like, yes! And all the girls are like, all right.
As we close our study of Judges chapter 9 on Believe in the Word with Pastor Dan Shunk, remember, true leadership honors God and serves others, but selfish ambition leads to destruction. If today's message spoke to your heart, please call us and let us know. Our phone number is 717-500-1102. Again, that phone number is 717-500-1102. If you'd like to listen to more messages from the Book of Judges, we invite you to visit cchambersburg.org. Just click on the Media and Radio tab to access our full archive of teachings, or download our Calvary Chapel Chambersburg app for easy access to sermons wherever you are. And if you're in the Chambersburg, Pennsylvania area, we'd love for you to come and worship and fellowship with us at our new and expanded location, 5121 Coffee Avenue, Chambersburg, Pennsylvania, 17201. Thanks for being with us today. We look forward to continuing the journey through the Book of Judges with you. This has been Believe in the Word with Pastor Dan Shunk.